moving quickly, another handoff to Rankin. Rankin finds a hole, he's at the 30, makes it to the 20, he's got one man to beat. Rankin walks into the end zone. Into the backfield, Braden Wright looks over top, he's going to try to find a man, he's got Alec Tatum. Tatum bobbles it, but he's in the end zone. What a connection between Braden Wright and Alec Tatum. Handoff to Rankin, Rankin right up the middle, and he's in the end zone for a Bearcat touchdown.
That the views expressed in today's show do not reflect the views of KZLX, KNWT, or Northwest Missouri State University. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome into the weekend sports kickoff here on KZLX LP Maryville, also streaming live on the KNWT Channel 8 Facebook page. Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier, Grant Allen, and Sam Reeves with you here today for our NFL preview special. Do this every year, spend a whole show, go division by division, team by team, and preview what we'll see in the upcoming NFL season. Fun thing about it is when we do it, we always have one game to start talking about, and it just so happens that the team closest to us, the Kansas City Chiefs, won the Super Bowl last year, so they got to host the opening Thursday night game, and that's what we get to talk about. Kind of an odd way to start the season, at least for me. It really didn't feel like football season was here. It really didn't feel like opening day with everything going on in the world, plus no preseason games to really get fired up and ready to go. Just kind of jumped into it, and it kind of felt the same way for the players as well. The first couple drives, just a little sloppy on both sides.
Yeah, definitely both sides, sloppy, and we're not used to the Kansas City Chiefs, kicking off the NFL season, and usually it's Tom Brady and the Patriots. That's what we're kind of used to seeing is, they make the Super Bowl every year basically, but not this time. This time it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs kicking off the season, and you mentioned with no preseason games and a very minimal training camp is definitely sloppy to start the game. But once David Johnson ran in for the touchdown for the Texans, Patrick Mahomes, it seemed, probably got the guys around and said, "Hey, let's turn it on now. We got to go," because they're turned on, and they went off for 31 unanswered points. And that was that.
The Chiefs seem to do that against the Texans.
They seem to do that against everyone.
Yes, they do.
I think there was something going around, like the Chiefs run an 84 to 14 run against the Texans at one point before the end of that game. But as Sam mentioned, it just seemed that opening part of the game, it just took a while to be like, okay, we're playing football. Between what happened at the start of the game, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, but between that, the condensed training camp, no preseason games to get ready for anything, and I think we saw why preseason games, at least one or two, matters moving forward, is just so players can find that rhythm, because both opening drives, the Chiefs probably should have scored a touchdown on their opening drive. Demarcus Robinson dropped a dime from Patrick Mahomes, but other than that, even the Chiefs, it was, you could just tell the timing was off there at the beginning, and then it kind of rolled into it and slowly got into it, but I think what we saw from Kansas City was you don't return, and I know now the number's like 18 out of 22, but originally it was supposed to be 20 of 22 starters from the Super Bowl. You don't return that many players and expect to be bad. And there's this, to me, there's this idea going around that there's, Kansas City's like, oh, we're a lot of fans like this team's prepared for a dynasty, and I'm kind of on the, yes, on paper, but hold off. This is the NFL. It's really hard to do that. But I feel like there's this other group of people that are like, well, the Chiefs aren't going to be very good this year. And I don't know where that's come from. This is a team, they may not go and win the Super Bowl this year, but they're one of the 4 teams in the conversation to do so. They're right up there. And if you think Kansas City's not going to be a good football team this year and roll the table and roll through the playoffs and at least challenge for a Super Bowl, I don't know what planet you're on.
Definitely, Patrick Mahomes, is he's kind of coined the saying for the season this year for the Chiefs: "Run it back." It is a run it back year for the Chiefs, and returning 18 of 22 starters, as you mentioned, Jacob, is unheard of in the NFL. There's so much turnover on an NFL team from year to year, so that, and also signing most of your key players to big time contracts. Chris Jones getting signed, Travis Kelce, and then that big $503 million contract to Patrick Mahomes, that really, sets in stone your franchise for the foreseeable future. So Obviously, if you're a Chiefs fan, you like to think dynasty, but I mean, there's only been one real dynasty that we've seen, and it's really tough to maintain.
And you look at that dynasty with the Patriots. It wasn't as if there was only one time in that Patriots dynasty they went and won back-to-back Super Bowls. They went to back-to-back Super Bowls. They never really won back-to-back Super Bowls. They just were there consistently over a long period of time, and that's the way Kansas City's built right now. The core is still young. They're all signed now for an extended period of time. And you saw it with the Patriots. It's about getting good draft picks, valued draft picks, and that goes right into my next point is what a debut for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's just come out and just added another dimension for Kansas City. They were good with Damian Williams last year. He sitting out the season due to COVID-19. Edwards-Helaire comes in and puts on a phenomenal performance. And now you look at Kansas City and go, well, they can run the football now. That's what I saw. To me, the biggest thing from last night was Kansas City has the possibility to create a dominant run game. And if you give Patrick Mahomes a dominant run game and let him go to work and play action and with what Andy Reid can draw up, the rest of the league's in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. The rest of the league, with the way Clyde Edwards-Helaire played last night, definitely is on watch with the Chiefs' running game because Damian Williams was definitely not a household name last year for the Chiefs, but he got it done. He did what he had to do to win football games, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes in as a rookie out of LSU and puts up 138 yards on 25 carries last night with a touchdown. That's not a bad debut at all if you're Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and the Chiefs have to be happy with what they saw out of him.
And there was obvious room for improvement, too, from Helaire. I mean, he could have easily had 3 touchdowns last night. He had a bit of struggle with the goal line carries, but that's also you're going against one of the better defensive lines in the league with the Texans, and they've got J.J. Watt over there. So it might be a bit expected to struggle with that. And it's the first game of the season, so I feel like it's going to be hard to get the entire offensive line on the same page right away.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a breakout performance with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, if you mentioned, Jacob, if you give that Patrick Mahomes a good running game and, take a little bit of pressure off of him, just so he knows he doesn't always have to make the big-time play, you can give it to Edwards-Helaire and get the first downs and some yardage. That's a big help. But, we mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire is doing wonders in the running game. One dimension of his game we didn't see last night is he's a very good pass catcher, too. So, if he doesn't have nights like last night where he's running all over the defense, he can definitely step in the passing game and catch some screens or, run some routes and, hurt the defense, that way through the air. So there's a very good weapon for the Chiefs that Patrick Mahomes handpicked himself. Really, Mahomes said he wanted Edwards-Helaire, and so I'm not going to say this is what kind of was expected of him, but it's not completely surprising that Edwards-Helaire had a game like this.
And really the way it, to me, changed the game for Kansas City is it shortened the game. Mm-hmm. Is you look at yardage, only 211 pass yards for Patrick Mahomes, did end up with 3 touchdowns. It was a much more balanced attack for Kansas City with 166 total yards in the ground, but you look at just that first quarter, Kansas City only possessed the ball 4 times. Similar there in the second half before kind of the end of the game, and you just got that end of the game kind of where both teams were just trying to finish, and the Texans scored a couple touchdowns late. But this game ended up way closer via score than what it was, but it shortened the game up. And for Kansas City, just having that option where what has been the biggest problem for Andy Reid Kansas City teams over the years, it's burning the clock late in the game. They didn't do a great job of it last night, but they really didn't need to, up 34-7. And it almost seemed as though they were just trying to work on some things that maybe you would have worked on in a preseason game, and they had that opportunity. But Kansas City now with the ability to have that dual attack we really didn't see last year. When you get into a game where you're a lot closer and a tougher opponent, I think the Texans, they need a couple weeks losing DeAndre Hopkins to find who's going to be the weapon for Deshaun Watson. They need a couple weeks, but they're still going to be a good football team. But right now, Kansas City out the gate in a really good position. Welcome back into the weekend sports kickoff here on X106, also streaming live on the KNWT Channel 8 Facebook page. Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier, Grant Allen, Sam Reeves with you here. And now we will begin the journey through each and every division, talk about who we think will win the division, also make game picks of every game going on the rest of the weekend. At the end of each little batch that we go through, we'll do 2 divisions at a time. We'll start with the division of the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, the now Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers, Denver Broncos in this division. And 2 teams here, I'm sure I'll say Oakland, and I'll continue to say San Diego for a while. We'll try to get Las Vegas and Los Angeles in there as best we can. But for me, this division, it's really the 3 teams under the Chiefs fighting for a wild card spot. The Chiefs will run away with this one.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning the division, but don't sleep on the Broncos though. I feel like they're the second best team in this division, and they can really push to get to a playoff spot. As they brought in some guys, Jerry Jeudy, Albert Okwuegbunam, Lee Pittman as well. So they brought in a couple receivers. I don't remember. I know they got Jeudy and another one.
Yep, Pittman
Was it KJ Hamler?
KJ
He's very
Hamler.
good.
I know,
He's very
Sam,
good.
you mentioned it yesterday on Day-to-Day Picks, but yeah, so it's KJ Hamler, who they got, and it's a young offense, but it's a good offense, and the signs Drew Lock showed last year at the end of the year, the chemistry he has with Cortland Sutton. I think this team could make a wild card push.
Yeah, I expect the Broncos to, I have them tied with the Raiders in my predictions at 6-10. I think the Raiders have Josh Jacobs is a very good running back. They also got Henry Ruggs from the draft. So the Raiders aren't going to be a bad team either. But hopefully, if you're a Broncos fan, Drew Lock can continue to take steps forward and utilize those new receivers, because if they can successfully do that with the defense they have, they will definitely be challenging for a wild card spot. I don't really necessarily have them that high because I don't think they will really this year. I think they're still like a year away, but they're definitely heading in the right direction in Denver.
I would have solidly had them in the playoffs as a wild card team if it weren't for the loss of Von Miller just before the season started. I mean, that's a huge, huge loss to a team that already had a kind of a spotty defense with some elite level talent with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, but they didn't have that depth. And when you lose a guy like Von Miller, it's a huge impact on the team. I don't know. It's going to be down to, can Drew Lock step forward and lead this team? Because a lot of people think he took a bunch of steps forward last year and at the very end of the year, but they also played a very weak schedule. So it's going to be down to him and their offensive coordinators. Can they work in this plethora of offensive weapons they have?
And I think they can, because I actually have, Sam, I know you mentioned you have them going 6-10. I actually have the Broncos going 11-5, and I think they're going to get to the wild card spot. I think they'll get the wild card spot out of the AFC West. Don't know if they'll get any more far than that, but I think this year is kind of the stepping stone to what could be an offense that rivals the Chiefs or gets close to rivaling the Chiefs.
I'm kind of in the same place that Grant is with what we've seen from the Broncos already. Is they've already lost some of their key pieces. You look at Von Miller, already gone for the season, your defensive leader, and when you lose somebody like that, it brings the whole team down. And we've seen before where teams where they have players. We've seen it with the Chargers before, where they'll lose players in training camp, and then they come out, and with national media that seems to pick the Chargers every year. I think thankfully that didn't happen this year. We see that come out a little bit flat. And I think, to me, that's what we'll see with the Broncos after kind of what's going on in camp right now. But before this first game is they on paper, were good to go for the season, and now kind of that paper, they dumped it in some water, and it's struggling to stay together. And once it dries out, they might be okay, say week 6, week 7, but up until now, those first few weeks, I think is going to be a difficulty for them, and it's going to put them too far behind. So I don't have the Broncos doing very well this year. To me, it's the Raiders that are the team that could surprise some people.
Really?
Really?
Because
You believe in-
I got the Raiders in last place in the AFC West.
See, and
Really?
that's the thing for me with for me with the AFC. Once you get past the Ravens and the Chiefs, and even this year, I'm going to say the Bills. You get past those three teams. To me, it's wide open on back. The team that we may predict to finish 13th or 14th, I still think, well, if this goes this way, all of a sudden they're a wild card team.
Right.
I don't think it's the AFC and the NFC are two completely different conferences like they were last year. Where the NFC, you've got 8 teams, to me, fighting for 6 spots. They're all going to have 10 wins, and everyone else isn't going to be very good. The AFC, you've got 2 teams that are really good, and everybody else is kind of just mediocre, and you're going to get that 9-7, 6 seed at the wild card, like we saw this last year with the Titans. That's how it'll work, and I think it could be any one of those teams. I think the Raiders, they finally get it put together. Derek Carr picks it back up a little bit, and to me, it's the Raiders this year that slide into that final wild card spot. But again, if the Broncos put it together, they could get there. The Chargers we'll see what happens with the Chargers
You still have
with their
offensive
quarterback
weapons.
situation. They've got the offensive weapons. What's going to happen at quarterback with the Chargers? That's the biggest question for them.
I think the biggest question for the Raiders is John Gruden. Like,
Well, he's always a question.
yeah. Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
The guy calling all your plays.
Well, it's which John Gruden are you going to get on each individual play, and that's the. It's
And-
not like which game. It's not like which season. It's which John Gruden are you getting each and every play.
And also, I think another big question mark for the Raiders is which Derek Carr are you going to get? Are you going to get Derek Carr before the leg injury when he was almost an MVP candidate, or are you going to get the Derek Carr of the past few years, hasn't been very good and has some turnover problems? And that's the Derek Carr that I think we'll get this year. I don't think the Raiders, he's got some weapons now. Henry Ruggs looks really good. Josh Jacobs looked great last year, but this year, I don't think that's going to be enough for Derek Carr to kind of come out of his mediocre play the past few years. And I think we're going to stick with the same Derek Carr we have for the past couple of years.
The other question mark for the Raiders is through all of their draft picks that they accumulated over the last few years, and most of those going on the defensive end, can that defensive unit, which has individual players on it, can they put it together as a cohesive unit and keep teams in games in defensively? If they can play good defensive football, I think you've got enough offensively now for Las Vegas that if Derek Carr plays well, they're a team that, again, with the way the AFC is, can fight for that final wild card spot. Welcome back to the Weekend Sports Kickoff here on X106, also streaming live on the KNWT Channel 8 Facebook page. Jacob Blair, Sam Steinmeier, Grant Allen, Sam Reeves here with you as we wrap up our NFL season preview special. And to do so, before we get to everybody's favorite segment, we have to make those way too early Super Bowl picks, which actually for the first time last year I got one right when I made the homer pick of picking the Chiefs, but it ended up working. We'll start with the AFC champion, pick the AFC champion, then pick the NFC champion, and then pick the Super Bowl. I've got this all down on a sheet of paper, so we'll see how right all this is at the end of the year. But we'll start with Sam Reeves over there in the corner. Who's your AFC champion, who's your NFC champion, and then who wins the Super Bowl?
In the AFC, I'm taking a homer pick as well, although I think this one isn't that far off. Anyways, even if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, in the AFC, I'm taking the Chiefs. In the NFC, I am taking the New Orleans Saints. And in the Super Bowl, we're running it back all the way to another Super Bowl win. Give me the Chiefs over the Saints. There you go.
Grant.
I have in the AFC. I feel like I can't pick the Chiefs. I just don't know. I don't want to let myself down too hard if they do end up losing. So I'll go Ravens. And in the AFC or in the NFC, I have the Saints, and I think the Saints are going to beat the Ravens. Drew Brees will ride off into the sunset, and Who knows who takes over
So
there?
this is
Jameis
way
Winston will take over for him then.
Oh, that would be interesting.
this is way before your time, but definitely taking the Trevor Mater approach there, where you pick someone other than the team that you like. So then that way, if the team that you like ends up winning, you're still happy. If they end up
Exactly.
losing, you're still happy because you got it right. So
I could not. I thought about saying Chiefs lose to the Saints, but I would be so heartbroken if that happened.
So that's definitely the Trevor Mater approach. So we've got the Andrew Botwinick approach on today's show, as well as the Trevor Mater approach. So going deep in the archives of
There you go.
WSK. Sam?
Well, in the AFC, I got the Chiefs, and I feel like that's going to be a theme. And in the NFC, no surprise probably to anyone, but I have the Dallas Cowboys.
Shocker.
And in the Super Bowl, I have in Tampa Bay, the Dallas Cowboys will beat the Kansas City Chiefs and win their 6th Super Bowl.
Oh, my.
I thought Off the Rocker was after this.
Good luck with
And they
that,
can-
Sam.
And I picked them to win the Super Bowl last year. That was a homer pick. Didn't really think that might have happened, but this
Are
year,
you sure?
this year they have a shot because this year they are actually the best team. One of the best teams in the NFC.
The sad thing is, as much as I want to pound my head into my computer right now, they're gonna make the playoffs. So
They'll make the playoffs.
Right.
that gives them a chance. So we'll let it slide this time. I've got the Chiefs, I've got the Saints, and I got the Chiefs going back to back. I think for Kansas City to try to beat them is extremely difficult. They've got a to me now. You look at the defensive side of the football; it's borderline top 10 defense. We saw that at the end of the year last year. The offense, it kind of just seems Kansas City's offense can mess around halfway through the game and just do whatever they want whenever they want, and that's hard to beat. And I think Kansas City is able to beat the Saints. I think you have a very good Super Bowl again in that matchup. It's by no means a runaway, but the Chiefs go back-to-back, and Patrick Mahomes makes his billion-year contract matter in year number 1, and Kansas City ends up going back-to-back for the first time since the Patriots did it many years ago. We'll now move to Off My Rocker. We'll get the theme music up for it next week. We'll work on that theme music. We got to get the island theme music for when we got to get Off My Rocker going. Who wants to start? It's a big task. I wasn't here last week, so I didn't hear what everybody said. But
Yeah.
who wants to start?
Since it's their second time on WSK, I'll let them take the spotlight. I'll go first. So I've already said that the Cowboys will win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to win that by double digits against the Chiefs.
Okay.
And not only will Dak Prescott win Super Bowl MVP, Dak Prescott will also win NFL MVP
Goodbye.
en route to the greatest season in Cowboys football history.
Are you okay, Sam?
That's the dream scenario.
I
this
mean,
season.
No, it's
you
not.
just said it. That's the dream scenario.
That's the dream scenario this season. And the cherry on top is beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Because, just the look on everyone's faces that day. Be amazing.
The look on our faces now. I mean, we can't see it because we have masks on, but I think we're all.
I think you can hear it by the fact we're not saying anything. I don't
Yeah,
even know
you're
what
up
to
your
say
eye.
to
I
that.
mean,
Goodness.
this is off my rocker for a reason.
Yeah, for any first-time listeners or viewers, we started this last year. It's a ton of fun.
Ton of fun.
We've never gotten one right. They've been close. I've had a couple get close, but
I think mine's gonna be right.
none have ever been right.
If you're getting one right, you're doing it
I mean,
wrong.
that's Nolan Brooks level right there.
You think that's in Grizzlies dynasty level?
All those things together, yes.
All those
Still don't
things
know.
together.
All those
I mean,
things, okay.
it doesn't top that. What's crazy about Nolan's Grizzly Dynasty two-headed monster thing is that was like the second time we ever did this, and it's still the number one option. That one's close though. That
close.
Whew,
I'm glad I got close though.
whew.
Yikes.
It's going to be tough to reach that one for us three.
Yeah.
I think Sam just won the day. You might have just earned the privilege of going last each week.
And the privilege to go last, that'll be nice. That was Andrew Botwinick's spot.
No, that was Nolan.
Well, that was Nolan, but whenever Nolan wasn't on the show,
Then it went to Andrew.
then it went to Andrew.
I feel like I got to get an Austin McNorton reference in here in a minute.
Yeah.
And then we can get everybody.
Someone
from last
scream
year.
into the microphone so he can feel like he's here.
Yes.
I was gonna say if this was last year, the mask would actually be a good thing because then
Yeah.
we could have actually quieted him down. But he's not here this year.
No.
We graduate people.
KMA's problem.
Grant, what do you got for us?
I think that the Washington football team are going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean,
We're rolling today.
we are.
Holy cow.
This is a good day for Off My Rocker.
Wow.
It's a good day. I have them going 1-15. So
I have them at 2-14.
Let's see. I think I have them at 2-14 as well.
Really?
Maybe 3-4, 3-13.
name one offensive weapon on that team.
Steven Sims Jr.
I don't know who
Rock
that is.
Jayhawk. I knew that was coming.
Oh, you went to
Terry
Kansas?
McLaurin.
He's definitely not that good. He'll be
Dwayne
cut by week
Haskins.
2.
No longer Adrian Peterson.
Nope.
Okay, I think we're done talking about the Washington
Yeah,
football
we
team
can
now.
move on from team name here making the playoffs because that won't happen.